this president to do the right thing, not for 1 minute, not for one election, not for the sake of our country. You just can't. He has not changed. He will not change. He has made that clear himself without self-awareness or hesitation. A man without character or ethical compass will never find his way. Even as the most recent and most egregious misconduct was discovered, he was unapologetic, unrepentant, and more dangerous, undeterred.
You can't trust this president to do the right thing. That was Congressman Adam Schiff's closing argument in Donald Trump's first impeachment trial. Now, after 2 impeachments and 2 indictments, those words ring truer than ever. Joining me now is California Congressman and Democratic Senate candidate Adam Schiff. He's a former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, the lead impeachment manager in the first impeachment of Donald Trump, and a key member of the January 6th Select Committee. Congressman Schiff, welcome back to the Sunday Show. I know you've been talking about this for days now, but I would like to hear your reaction to the 49-page indictment of Trump. And did you think then that he would do something this bad?
Well, sadly, yes. I mean, this is not like he woke up one day and suddenly decided that he was a different man, that he was going to throw away any adherence to the law, that he was going to obstruct an investigation. This is who he is. And it's always been apparent, sadly, that this is who he is, that he feels the law applies to other people. It doesn't apply to him. And for a lifetime, that's the way it's appeared. But that now seems to have been finally catching up on him. Reading the indictment, it was just stunning, the brazenness, the premeditation, the active efforts to obstruct, to mislead. And I think that if the evidence backs up the allegations in the indictment, it's a pretty powerful case. And I have to think, with a prosecutor as careful as Jack Smith, that the evidence is going to back up what's in that indictment.
Right. And then the evidence in that indictment is very specific, noting that Donald Trump personally helped pack the boxes, oversaw the transportation of the boxes containing hundreds of these classified documents. Do you think that Special Counsel Jack Smith, underscoring all of that, but also how this affects the intelligence and military communities, is this part of an effort by the special counsel to block charges that his investigation and writ large the Department of Justice is weaponized against the former president?
Yes, I think that he made an effort to make this, what's called a speaking indictment. That is, provide a lot of information in the indictment itself so that the public understands the seriousness of the charges, the serious nature of the documents that Trump was showing to others and treating so cavalierly as to have on the stage in a ballroom. There are multiple ways to charge an indictment. This could have been very skeletal. It could have said merely that he conspired with others to retain documents, that he obstructed the investigation, with little factual meat on the bone, even though those facts exist. But he chose to tell the country what this was all about. To make it, I think, more apparent to the public why this indictment was necessary. And reading the indictment, one thing leaps out at me, which is this really wasn't a very hard decision. It's certainly historic, but he had no choice to go forward with this indictment. If given the facts on display here, he were to make the decision not to charge him because he's a former president, then it would just mock the idea that everyone is equal before the law. This is a case that had to be brought.
Excuse me, Congressman, as detailed as this indictment is, as a former prosecutor, should we expect to see even more damning evidence? And are there any clues to future action in the indictment? What leaps out at you?
Yes, I certainly think you should expect to see more evidence during the trial. These are just some of the highlights. Prosecutors will often withhold some really key facts from the indictment, both because they don't want witnesses to be intimidated, they don't want to show their hand in terms of who may be cooperating, but also they want to save material that they can use in rebuttal, anticipating some of the defenses that might be made. And without showcasing that to the defendant at this early stage, That's not going to be displayed in the indictment. But in terms of whether other charges will come out of this, I would imagine this is a bit atypical of a case in the sense that every dot has been, every I has been dotted, every T has been crossed. It's not like this was done in a hurry and therefore needs to be superseded many times. So it's possible there would be a superseding indictment, but I would imagine that most of what we're going to see charged, if not all, is in this indictment.